Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a good morning. Right now, it's morning in the West Coast, afternoon in the East Coast, and nighttime in India, and other times in between. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So, welcome all to our first episode of the Thai Women Connect mini-series. This is episode 1, where we bring you conversations from successful entrepreneurs and investors from around the world to help you achieve your goals. So, Thai Women is focused on fostering women entrepreneurs globally, and it's my pleasure to invite Dharti Desai, Vice Chair of Thai Women Global. And a quick little background about Dharti before I let her take the mic here is that she's a serial entrepreneur, bootstrapped through 3 startups of her own, and currently she's an angel investor in early stage startups with 1 exit so far. She focuses on investing in women or minorities, and she advises growth stage companies on digital marketing strategy. But her true passion is mentoring women with empathy and spends a lot of time uplifting women globally. Dharti, please, everyone please welcome Dharti. Dharti, here you are.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you so much, first of all, for hosting this. Thanks to you and Kanchana for co-leading this. This is wonderful. So happy to be here. Good morning, good evening to everybody logging in from different parts of the world. It's truly thrilling to be here. On behalf of Hema Namalai, who's the president of Thai Coimbatore and the chair for Thai Women, it's a great pleasure to welcome all of you and hope everyone is staying safe in the current circumstances. Thai Women was actually launched last year at TGS in Delhi, and I'm very grateful to Thai Global for proposing this initiative and then for a lot of chapters to enthusiastically partake in this. We're very thrilled that we have more than 25 chapters globally that are participating in our 2020 program, which is focused around these mini-series webinars, speakers, connect with mentors, and a pitch competition for every chapter, which culminates in a global pitch competition in Dubai, fingers crossed. So we're really excited to see the momentum that this wonderful initiative is taking on, clearly validating that there is a need to foster women entrepreneurs, irrespective of background, color, size, or status of the enterprise. So very thrilled to be here. I'd like to just quickly say a little bit about Smita as well. She's a true serial entrepreneur with 2 exits under her belt. Additionally, she's also involved as Chief Product Officer for startups in career development and digital health. She functions as an advisor to aspiring entrepreneurs also, and she's very passionate about helping women entrepreneurs and mentoring them. Smita, I'm going to hand it back to you, and looking forward to this wonderful session with Patti. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we don't need the slides right now. Thank you. That's what I meant. That we were done. Thank you, Maggie. So I'm really excited to chat with my fellow successful serial entrepreneur, Patti White, who's the CEO of Hemex Health, who has reinvented her companies during 3 downturns and thrived admirably. And we are going to learn about her strategies, but before we go into that, I would like to just mention some housekeeping rules and introduce my co-lead, Kanchana Raman, who is also the co-lead for our, she's a serial entrepreneur too, and a co-lead for our mini-series. So our housekeeping is basically that if you look on your webinar page, there is a Q&A and a chat. So please put your questions in Q&A area only. Kanchana Raman will be monitoring the Q&A and will let us know about the questions. We will try to answer your questions while in our answers that we are providing, our question and answers we are doing in our interactive session. And we hope you have fun. We'll be going fast on it. And I'm really, really excited to talk to Patti. And Patti, just a little bit about Patti is, if you don't mind, Patti, my saying is that you have a very illustrious background. ranging from being an executive at Hewlett Packard in computer technology and corporate marketing, and then being a serial entrepreneur, taking 3 companies through. And you have launched over 20 products in medical technologies at this time. And then you raised over $70 million as CEO for all of your companies. We would love to know more about you. And before we dive in, can I ask you a little bit of your personal side question, just so that the audience can get to know you? So, Patti, your career has intertwined computer and medical tech, very diverse fields. This is very interesting to me, as this is sort of my background too. I started as a networking engineer at FedEx, and then I went in as into digital health and medical health with AI research. So could you please tell us a little bit as to how these diverse fields interested you, what has been your and changed your outlook and helped you become the CEO of the third exceptionally good company, Hemex Health?
Sure. Thank you, Smita, and good morning and good evening to everybody. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy to be here and to help support Thai women and women in general. So thanks for the opportunity to be here. As Smita mentioned, I started on the technology side and then moved into medical. And, really for me, it's the same reason that drove me for both of those, which is I went into technology in the early days of the personal computer business. So I've been around a few years, and I did that because it was an exciting time where, we knew the world was going to change. I mean, personal computers have changed all of our lives. I know for some of you, you've had them your whole life, but for those of us that were around longer, it was one of those things where our work life was going to change, our personal life was going to change. And I could see that very early on, and I wanted to be part of it. So that really drove me to go to graduate school, get into a school where I thought I could get to Silicon Valley, and had a chance to join Hewlett Packard as being and help be the product manager on the second personal computer that they ever did. But for the very same reason, I went into medical. I'd been in PCs for 6 or 8 years, and it wasn't quite the same. It didn't have that thrill. And to me, when I looked at the medical industry, I saw an opportunity to have that same kind of thrill, to get into an industry where you're changing lives. In medical, we change lives every time we do anything. And that's what really motivates me as an executive at HP. That's what motivated me, and also as an entrepreneur. So, I hope that for anyone who's an entrepreneur, they have that same kind of thrill and use technology to change lives.
Wonderful. Love it. So, I believe in power of connections. When I was a young engineer at FedEx, and I was developing some leading edge networking stuff, I met this distinguished individual who guided me into creating some leading edge technology, and we presented it OSI World. And he sort of mentioned I should be an entrepreneur. 4 years later, when I was looking for money, as well as guidance, not money as much, but more guidance, and I was presented in front of, I went to present in front of Thai Silicon Valley, I came face to face with this wonderful man again, and he remembered me. This was Mr. Kanwal Reiki. And he just took me under his wing, gave me great advice. So when I met you first time at Thai Silicon Valley at the ThaiCon in 2017, you said that this was the first ThaiCon you had attended, and you had just started Hemex Health. I would love to know how the Thai ecosystem has helped you on your journey and getting the fundraising. Could you please help us understand that and let our viewers know?
Sure. Well, I mean, Thai has been an amazing organization for me and for Hemex. I mean, first of all, it might be helpful to know that at Hemex, our focus has been on doing breakthrough diagnostics for low resource settings. So we're really targeted on solving problems in places like India, Southeast Asia, African countries, places where, they don't have a high-end laboratory for every person, and a lot of times they need a different solution. So given that that was our focus at Hemex, I'd been talking to a number of angel groups in the US, and as you might expect, a lot of them just didn't get it. I mean, we were doing a 1-minute malaria diagnostic. Most of those people had never even thought about malaria, and malaria hadn't been in the US. And so when I started meeting the first Thai group in Portland, and Nitin Rai, who's really been a key person in connecting us, I saw right away that people understood the problem. It's really important to find investors that understand the problem and can relate to it. And he suggested that I go down to Thai Silicon Valley, and I found that group to be the most welcoming organization that I've ever met. And I think a lot of it was that they understood what we were doing. I mean, we were a small company going up to try to solve a big problem, and people wanted to help. And they took me from one person to another, introduced me. We ended up, Thai is our second largest group of investors. Very early on, we got over $1 million, all from individuals in Thai, $25,000 or $50,000 at a time. And it really added up. And so, we not only did raise money in Thai Silicon Valley and got 2 board members from that organization, then also went to India and raised money from Thai Global. We had people from the UK, from many different continents that are part of Thai that ended up investing in Hemex. So for me, it was really a tremendous experience. And, one reason why I'd love to give it back to this organization and do whatever I can to help other people, because clearly it's a very welcoming organization. Really, really great experience for us.
Wow, thank you. I really enjoyed listening to how Thai has been so helpful for all entrepreneurs, and especially I remember Nitin, he's like a big supporter of women entrepreneurs. And Thai women is really something that we want to make sure that everybody becomes part of this entrepreneurship circle, and with advisors and helpers like you, also mentors like you, we will really enjoy and make strides too. So Patti, you had raised over 70 million in grant, angel venture, and corporate funding. And basically, with investors, both you and I have been involved with investors in one way or the other. And every downturn, we hear 2 things from the VCs that are really at odds with each other. One is that recession is the best time to start a company, and you can get plentiful talent cheap. And the second thing is, it's a cardinal sin for CEO to run out of money. But, then there were unicorns like Google, Cisco, Uber who started during recession, but they were like 1 in 10,000 or 1 in a million, but not 1 in 10. So investors in general stop putting money into during these challenging times. And it is hard to thrive. So how a CEO is supposed to resolve this paradox? So I would really like you to help us understand your strategies of winning through these downturns and thriving and making it into like really, really powerful organizations. Could you please help us understand your strategies?
Sure. I think, I don't have the magic answer, but, I've certainly lived through several downturns in startups. I think our first startup, I was raising money right when we had the .com bust. We were just about to do a round, but we made it through. We were raising funds and working to sell a company in 2008. And then also what we're facing now. I think for all of us, we would have to say that the COVID-19, what we're facing in the economic environment clearly is creating a challenging time. So what I try to do is think of four strategies that, might be helpful to share with you that, are things that I kind of come back to over and over again, and hopefully might help other entrepreneurs. I mean, the first of all, I would say that, challenging times represent a great opportunity for entrepreneurs because, challenging times shake things up. And by definition, what entrepreneurs are great at doing is finding a problem and then going after it and, really trying to exploit the opportunity and exploit the changes. Sorry about that. My dog's barking, but I guess that's what we all deal with working at home. So it's a great time. It's a great time for people to take a risk sometimes during a downturn. And for right now in COVID-19, for example, we have a lot of rules that constrain startups that are being changed. I mean, the whole idea of telemedicine, that didn't even, they had a lot of constraints, a lot of HIPAA rules. Now all of a sudden, that whole market's been opened up. There are new ways that we're going to get medical care. There are new ways we're going to deal with something like a pandemic that opens up opportunities for entrepreneurs. So I just want to encourage people, go back to what's the problem that's being opened up as a result of this challenge, and see if you can exploit it. At Hemex, we've said, we're making a diagnostic. We hadn't even thought about doing viruses as early on, but we saw COVID-19 and we said, you know what, we're going to move into the fast lane and go after this. And so we put a team on it in early February. A team included 2 people, and started working with another partner company. And we're working very hard to complete a diagnostic. I mean, as a result of that, we've made several new inventions we wouldn't have made. And, it's taking advantage of these opportunities. And again, focus on the problem. What new problems are being out there? What can you as an entrepreneur who can move quickly do to go after those? So that's like the first area I wanted to talk about, is just, go after the unsolved problems when you see these challenging times. And you're probably as well positioned as anybody to get those.
So focus on the problems that the opportunity provides. So no challenging times is basically a set of opportunities to be exploited. Thank you, Patti.
Yeah, sure.
Interesting.
And the other thing, of course, everybody wants to talk about fundraising, and that's probably, I think, the hardest thing as an entrepreneur. And I think now, Sumita, I've actually raised about 85 million, so I should change that number in my bio. But it's hard, and I'd say every $50,000 was hard. So I'm not going to ever pretend that's easy, but in challenging times, that's when you really have to be creative. You have to figure out. Let's take, for example, one of the real economic downturns. So a lot of people will have lost money because of what's happened. And so, and I didn't know this to begin with, because this happened in 2001, and I was trying to raise money in Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley. That's where all the entrepreneurs went. And, someone was nice enough, one of the VCs was nice enough to take me aside and say to me, there's no money here. Even though these people won't tell you this, they just lost a lot of money. And they'll talk to you, they'll let you do your pitch, they won't say no, but they're not going to invest. And his recommendation to me was go to the people that didn't lose the money. And in this case, that meant get out of the US, go overseas, go internationally, because those people were not able to get in on the really big .coms. So as a result, they didn't lose the money. They still had dry powder. And so, that was the best advice I could have gotten. And so I raised money actually we had our lead investor out of Toronto. We got money in Singapore, in Taiwan, in Europe. And, we put together at that time a $23 million round, really over that next year. And, I could have easily continued to waste time just talking to the same people. But again, this is where, when things get difficult, figure out who's got the dry powder. Maybe it means you go to a strategic investor. Maybe it means you go to, a different set of high net worth individuals. There's lots of choices for fundraising. And I think, a lot of people, you tend to go to the ones you hear about, and maybe, maybe that's where the most competition is, and you should go somewhere else.
So what you're saying is creative fundraising. So ensure that the people who have not lost the money, but try to concentrate on people who are like grants, people who are strategic investors who have an interest as to what you're doing, because it sort of resonates with what they feel and they think. And the second thing is high net worth individuals who would be interested, and go outside. Don't limit yourself to where you are. Is that the strategies in there? So you look for money where you may not have looked for before. Yeah. And those, they could surprise you. Interesting, very interesting. And maybe pitch competitions too. Learn to win.
Pitch competitions are a great place to meet people that are interested in what you're doing.
Right. And so those are 2 strategies. Do you want to go forward and tell us the other secret sauces?
I guess the other things I just wanted to mention, one thing is around transparent communication and keeping your team engaged. Anybody who's done startups for a long time, you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs. It may be a challenging environment. It may be, a time in your business where your technology doesn't work, where investors change has been made. I mean, there are all these reasons that can create challenging problems for you. And the one thing that I think has really helped me is, I mean, first of all, I've had a great team over the years, worked with many of the same people several times, but the guiding principle behind it for me is be really transparent with your team. When you're going through hard times, I think share with the team that, hey, we may run out of money. These are my strategies. This is what we're doing. Invite their participation and suggestions. And, by having that kind of collaboration and that kind of openness with your team, when you do hit hard times, I found they really stick by you. I mean, we had a time where a deal fell apart the day of closing. We had to close the company for 2 weeks. I had a great team at that time, but everybody stuck with us. I mean, we didn't lose a single person. Everybody came back, and if anything, we were a tighter, more dedicated team going on from that point in time. So, I think it's sometimes hard for CEOs, especially new CEOs, to, they feel like they carry it all internally and keep it all on their shoulders. But, by sharing that with your team, they know when things are bad. They know when you're stressed. Be open about what's going on and share that with them.
And think long term.
Yeah.
And think long term. From what you're saying is that with your team, it's like your family, that you're going together, you're in it for the long term.
Yeah.
So maybe short term, there may be some bumps, but in the long term, you are taking care of them and they are taking care of you. You're totally a family.
Yeah.
And so, because at other companies, we have been hearing that a lot of employees are being furloughed, terminated, and some companies are reducing pay to sustain long term. And there's a fear about second or third wave. So this work culture of being transparent, as well as, differs in small companies where you can keep your team together as opposed to big corporations.
Yes.
So that's a very interesting strategy. I mean, so I love it. Yeah. And so what else?
Okay.
What else should we take care of?
So the last one that I was going to bring to, because, something that I've learned sometimes the hard way through being an entrepreneur, and something I see a lot of other young women CEOs struggling with is, whatever you do, you're piloting the plane, right? But don't forget to put your own oxygen mask on first. So, it's so easy to be trying to take care of everyone else. But, as the CEO, you got to keep things on track. Figure out what you need. Where does your reserve come from? What are you going to do to get through those challenging times? And sometimes that means maybe even dealing with challenging people. I mean, when you go through tough, stressful times, you're going to sometimes see the worst in people, whether it's an investor, board member, even people on your own team. I mean, figure out what you need to be able to deal with those things and get that. You need to obviously continue to take some time for yourself and your family that you need as you go ahead, because time is always, very difficult for a CEO. And I can't say that I figured that one out. But, for example, I've had several times in my career, we've had some really challenging people. I mean, people that had serious issues, people, narcissists, sociopaths. I mean, they're out there, and that's going to happen to everybody who's been in business long enough. I'm sure, Smita, you have a few stories you could tell too. But, if you need to, go find an organizational psychologist, spend a few hours with that person, figure out what you need to support you so you can deal with this challenging situation. Because if you're completely taken offline, if you're exhausted, if you don't have the tools to deal with what's going on, then you're not going to be able to be successful. And also, in today's environment, lean on your other CEOs. Make sure as a woman, other mentors, have other women CEOs or men CEOs that are confident, people that you can, they have resources too. They can help you get what you need. And I just think, don't forget to do that, because, challenging times are, means you need to be creative and find some new ways of getting through these. So those were my 4, Smita. I'm sure there are hundreds of others that many of people out there would have, but hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, yes, they are very, very helpful, because when you put on your own oxygen mask, then basically what you're saying is that being the captain of the ship, you are there to lead everybody else and take care of everybody else. So that totally makes sense to me. Is like, because leadership is the key to decision making, innovation, pivoting, and most of all, sustainability. So you have to be there, be the captain. So that's good. And based on one thing more that you had said earlier about creative fundraising, do you mind if I ask you one question about that? I saw that you have won a number of pitch competitions around the world and over the years. What is your advice to entrepreneurs? How should they go about to win the pitch competition?
Oh, that's a great question. I know you guys have the pitch competitions coming up, and it's a great thing for startups to do. And you meet an amazing number of people through these pitch competitions. But I mean, for me, I think nobody is born knowing how to do a pitch, right? It's very much a learned and practiced skill. So my suggestion to people is there are so many great groups that give pitch trainings, and try to go to one of those. And the most important thing is dedicate yourself to spend the day sitting down and listening to other people's pitches. I mean, if you sit there and listen to people pitch one after the other, you'll figure out pretty early on that, it's very few things that come out that will be remembered out of that presentation. Very few takeaways. Nobody can possibly fill their brain with one pitch after the other. And that's the audience you're dealing with. So I think, get the training, figure out how to keep your message really simple and impactful, because they're not going to remember 95% of what you say. And then, really practice, videotape yourself, listen to it. One of the things I learned early on is, take what you think is your personality on stage and dial it up about 5 times, and, watch yourself on a camera, see that you barely move the needle. So, let your enthusiasm come through, but you get that through practice. This is a learned skill. You're not going to be able to do it the first time. And, get somebody listening who does not know your technology. Get your grandmother or your brother or somebody that does not know what you're doing, and see if they get excited about what you're saying, because these people, the judges, they don't know everything about your world, and you've got to make a simple message that they're going to relate to. And those are some of the things I've learned over the years and doing a lot of pitch competitions, and having made a lot of mistakes and tried to figure out the better answers.
And then you have to revise your strategy differently depending upon where you're pitching across the world, right? You have to pivot it a little bit.
It's true. That's just true. But Smita, the idea of keeping things simple works everywhere in the world. Nobody wants more complexity. And I see that people make that mistake over and over again. They forget the person they're talking to, even though you might have pitched them before, they don't remember everything you said last time. So, take it back, ground it, make it simple for people. Then it can be powerful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, Patti, this is so informative. I know I could keep asking you questions, but I do want to give audience as well as our people a chance. So, Kanchana, would you be able to sift through some of the question and answers the audience has for us, and then please go ahead and ask those?
Sure. Thank you, Patti. That was a great session. We are actually running over time, Smita. We are about 2 minutes over 30 minutes right now. So I think we'll probably have time for maybe one question at this point. So one of the things, first of all, I want to congratulate you. Thank you for being part of TIE and being part of our ecosystem of 62 chapters and 2,500 charter mentors, and using the network to raise funds, which is great. It's like a one-stop shop. You don't need to go anywhere. So definitely second that. I think one of the important questions, I think we're getting this from India, that says, when do you plan your exit? When do you know you want to exit? And how do you convince or get the buy-in from all of the investors that you're ready for the exit?
That is a great question. And I think that, you have to start thinking about exit from the beginning, in some level, because, you're sort of really trying to create a pathway for yourself. Think about where's this company going to grow? Because, and obviously most of the businesses I've been in the medical space, you're not going, I have not been in biotech companies. We're not going for an IPO, but, everybody that invests in you, they want a liquidity event. So you've got to figure out how you're going to get that. And so, I do think really trying to map out, what's the pathway that's going to get you there. in the way that you do things. I think creating partnerships and collaborations through that period gives you an opportunity to potentially get to know companies that could be potential acquirers. And it also gets you out there, in the marketplace. I think you need to be very careful about what agreements you sign with different people. I mean, don't sign an agreement that's going to really, in a way, limit your options going forward. It's not going to poison the company. So I've seen people make that mistake early on. And then I think what you hope is that you can be aligned with your investors on what the exit is. As you bring on board members, especially, make sure that you have that discussion when you interview board members about where you want to go. I mean, I had a situation once where, we had an opportunity arranged, but, I had an investor that blocked it. And, as it was one of the reasons why I ended up leaving that company, because I thought I'm never going to get where I want to go if I have a blocking investor that has a completely different strategy and doesn't want an exit. I wanted an exit, they didn't. And, I had to make the choice, the hard choice. So I think it's really part of the CEO's job is to be thinking about that and being able to be lined up. I mean, it can't be the thing that guides everything you do, but just don't take it off the table. Keep it in there and think about it.
So, thank you, Pat.
Kanchana, we will take a couple more questions as we started 10 minutes late.
Yes. Okay, sure. I have one more question here. Of course, you have a very diverse group of investors. You have, gotten funding from. How do you? I know one of the forums you said was the Thai forum, but how about others? How did you identify them? What was your strategy to go after other investors?
Yeah, so we have, over the years, we've gotten, and even in this company, we've gotten grant funding, quite a bit of grant funding, which of course I think helps a lot. In terms of angel groups, we really try to identify groups of investors that are going to have some tie and resonate with who we are as a company and our value proposition. That's why we went to Thai. That's also what we found in high net worth individuals in India that invested. And also even in using our Northwest connections. I'm in Portland, Oregon, in the Northwest part of the US. I mean, it's often true that people that are, close to home are going to be more likely to invest and be invested in your success. So, we had several VCs, from the Northwest that invested in us. And then we also looked at companies. We've got corporate investment, and we were able to get that because we found who really understands the problem that we're seeing, and maybe who is someone that potentially would be a good long-term partner. And more, especially in medical, a lot of the big companies have set up venture groups, and where they make more speculative investments into companies, and they don't try to tie you down. They understand that you're free to go. But I think, really looking for where you have that connection is critical for the investors, and targeting. Don't waste your time just going to anybody who asked you. I said no to many, many groups because, I didn't think that they really fit our vision, or they weren't going to invest. And you don't have that much time as a CEO. You can only do so many presentations. So really focus and prioritize.
Awesome. One more question is, what is important in a startup, right? I mean, you've been talking about timing. Is it the team? Is it the technology? Is it the timing? What, in your opinion, what is the most important thing?
I mean, from my experience, it's been the team. The team drives so much because, so oftentimes, whatever you start out with, you're going to change along the way. There's going to be technologies that don't work out. There's going to be markets that change. There's going to be new opportunities that come up. But if you've got a great team, you're going to be able to navigate a lot of those changes. And as a CEO, you want to find people on your team that really complement you. In my case, I have a co-founder that, we've worked together 4 times. I mean, we met at Hewlett Packard. So I worked in other companies where he didn't work, but we formed Hemex together because he's a great complement to me. And he's biomedical, total engineering, really a brilliant problem solver. I'm probably more the spokesperson, market oriented. Together we really form a strong unit. And I think when investors look at companies, they look at the team. That's, they always say, you're investing in the rider, not the horse. You really you're going to have to ride over a lot of rough ground no matter what happens. And you want to really have the strong team.
So I have one more question. I'm going to kind of club it together. One is, how did you know you had the right idea? And also, if you can give us that $1 million 1-minute elevator pitch for Hemex Solutions.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you know when you have the right idea? I mean, do you ever really know? It's really hard to. It's hard to know. Thing you think might be the right idea may change. And to me, that's one of the reasons why women CEOs are so great. Women CEOs actually listen. They observe. They're willing to take input, and I think they're so great at navigating the kind of changes they have to make. Yeah, I definitely think being able to be flexible is really, really important. And from Hemex, what I'm excited to tell you guys about Hemex. I mean, our job at Hemex is we try to change lives in low resource settings, but we do that through bringing actually really powerful technology, making it affordable, making it easy to use, using advanced technologies, but putting them into a product that can be simple, be used by the entry-level healthcare worker. And really, we try to save the lives of 1 million people in the next couple of years. That's our goal as a company, and I feel like we can do that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Maggie. That was awesome. And thank you for joining us today. And it was just a load of information for all of us. We have a lot more questions, but I guess we're running out of time. So I'm going to give it back to Smita.
And thank you too. I just want to say thank you to everybody also for being here.
Thank you, Patti. That was very inspiring. And I know we have so many more questions. And if anybody has more questions, please email us at the webinar link and send us over there at aparna@thai.org, or basically at the webinar link, and we'd be able to answer your questions and emails. The next session is going to be a conversation with the CEO and investor about how to pivot your company in these times. And that is next month, July 1st. And maybe we will extend these sessions a little bit more time-wise, but thank you so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Patti. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I hope everybody stays healthy, and good luck out there. We're all working for an environment that is safe for everybody. So, we're all going through a lot of turmoil in the US, and I just want to say, we support the kind of change that women, Black people, everyone can be successful and get justice. So I just want to say that for going forward.
Thank you, Patti.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Kanchana.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.